Hello peaches! So, another Corona day, another video filmed on my bed. Today I have a very exciting video for you guys. Ignore the hair, I'm sorry about that. But I have a very exciting video. This is my notebook from when I was 14. Some of you guys may recognize this beautiful picture right here. This is a Twilight notebook. The reason why I have this, or rather had this, I haven't used it in a very long time. But the reason why I had this when I was 14 is because I was the biggest Twilight fan there was. Like seriously, I was the biggest. I had everything. I had Bella's engagement ring. I had all the jewelries that the family has, like the Cullen family has these jewelries. They each have one that's different but with the same thing on. I had all of those. I had so many posters of Twilight that I had to hang them in the ceiling. I had an Edward Cullen right above my bed so I could look at him when I was sleeping. That's kind of creepy. I had t-shirts, I had everything. I watched the movie, I counted, and I watched the movie 120 times. More than that, I think it was like 123 or something. So I was definitely Twilight. And like everything I owned was something Twilight. Like even my notebook was a Twilight notebook. It was ridiculous. Kind of sad that I spent all that money on it. Like, imagine what a millionaire I could have been if I hadn't been a Twilight fan. But anyway, since it's quarantine and we all could use some good entertainment, I decided to read what it's in this notebook. I also thought it would be appropriate since there's recently been announced that there will be a new Twilight book. It's from Edward's perspective, and there's a whole thing with like, but wasn't that released a few years ago? But like, no, it wasn't like the official, it was someone who released the unfinished thing and stuff like that, I don't know. But there will be a new Twilight book, so I thought it would be perfect to read my own version. Hopefully this will be made into a movie one day, who knows. So basically, I wrote a fanfiction. This is the front cover. I made this the front cover because I called the story Love is Forever, and then I wanted the picture to be a heart with the bite marks and it was bleeding. So yeah, that is the name of this fanfic story thing. So this is not a fanfic in the way that I used the characters from Twilight. This is a fanfic using the Twilight universe and that whole idea, and very much inspired by Twilight, but using my own characters and stuff like that. So it is still a fanfic. I think that still qualifies as a fanfic, but it's not one of those like I actually used the people who are in Twilight, you know. It is in Danish, but I am going to translate it. Oh, and by the way, the date is right here. This was written on the 15th of June 2010. And in 2010 I turned 15, so I was 14 right here. This is almost exactly 10 years ago. In like a month, this is 10 years ago. That's so weird. That's kind of crazy that I found it now. Anyway, so 10 years ago I wrote this. I was almost 15 at that time. Let's do this. I heard a scream and ran into the living room. My son Nick, who was 6 months old, has just woken up. I took him up into my arms and looked at him. How could I be so lucky? Did I really deserve this? When the phone rang, I got so startled that I almost dropped Nick. What a great mom. Hey Samantha, it sounded in the other end of the phone. It was my way too happy boss. Hello Chris, I answered a little bit quietly. Guess what you're going to? You are going to New York City for a month, where you get the chance to be promoted to the head director. Isn't that just amazing? I think I wanted this guy to be gay, but I'm not sure. So that's what I'm going for, like stereotypically gay, you know? Oh my god, that's so awesome, I answered, and tried to sound as happy as possible. Good, pack your stuff and be ready to go tomorrow night at 8. His voice sounded way too happy before he hung up the phone. I ran into the bedroom and packed as much as possible while I still held Nick on my arm. Why are you packing? I turned around quickly and saw my husband Thomas standing in the doorway. I'm going to New York City for a month, tomorrow. I could get promoted, I answered him, while I gave him Nick so I could finish packing. But who's going to take care of Nick this week? I'm going to work late at the restaurant. Yes, I know, Thomas, But we can just get my mom to do it. Yay. He didn't really try to sound happy. It's not gonna be that bad. You're not home anyway when she's here. I'm going to call her right away, I said while I pressed her number on my phone. I couldn't leave them. It was just a month, but I knew that it would feel like a year. That's honestly how I would feel if I had to leave my son and my husband for a month. A month! I can't even spend a day away from James. I told my mom goodbye and also Nick, and afterwards Thomas drove me to the airport. Oh, that was quick. Was that like the same day or what? It was just like, well, I'm going now. The next sentence is so weird. I don't want to go. Everyone hates me because I'm only 23 and they're all 40 to 50 years old. So apparently older people hate young people. Well, alright, fair enough. They don't hate you. Now go before the plane leaves without you. And only call when you get the job, otherwise I'm just going to miss you. What? So she's going for a month and her husband only wants her to call once when she gets the job. What the hell? Like, what? What? I had no idea about these kind of things. I had my first boyfriend when I was 20, first kiss, first everything when I was 20, alright? So when I was 14, I had no idea about these things. I didn't know anything about romance or relationships. If I get it, I answered with an angry voice. You will get it. I know you will. Now hurry. I kissed him goodbye and ran to Chris, who stood at the information desk. He was tall and skinny with feminine movements. He was always wearing tight jeans and a colorful shirt. Alright, so I definitely intended him to be stereotypically gay. We had a long flight, and then we had to take a train, and then we had to take 3 different buses. I don't know why that was important, but apparently it was. When we finally got there, I was so tired that I fell asleep right away. I dreamt about Nick and Thomas. I dreamt that I was home with them, and that I never needed to go to work. That was like the dream. Oh, I just wish that I never had to go to work, so I can stay home with my future husband and child. I woke up at 8, because Chris called me. Samantha, sweetheart, don't just lie and sleep all day. There's a lot of things to do here. The meeting is moved from 6 to 8 tonight, okay? See you. I got up slowly and moved to the bath. The water was ice cold, so I hurried out again. Why was it cold? Wait, what? Is that important? Did I think that water was cold in New York? What? My eyes kept looking at the phone. Should I call him? Just to say hello? No. If I heard his voice, I would just want to go home even more. Yeah, because that's how relationships work. I grabbed my jacket and went out in the New York streets. I couldn't like that the city was so big, so I went down a small path. It reminded me of my little hometown with small old houses, a small park, and a flea market where everyone in town was. You would almost not think that you were in New York. I looked at the flea market and found a place where there was a very beautiful necklace. The man behind the table looked a little weird. He had a big black cape on with a hood so you couldn't see his eyes. His mouth was dry and pale. His skin was almost white. Ew, white people, how scary. Even though you couldn't see his eyes, I felt like he was staring at me when I looked at the necklace. A beautiful necklace for a beautiful young lady. His voice was almost too young to belong to an old man. It's very beautiful, but I don't have enough money. I answered carefully. Just take it, he said, with a soft voice. It's too beautiful for any other girls here in New York anyway. Before I answered, it started to rain, and when I looked up at the sky and then afterwards on the man, he was gone. The table was also gone. The only thing left from him was the necklace, which I still held in my hand. When I came back to my room, I laid down on the bed. I was so tired that I fell asleep. When I woke again, it was 7:30. I hurried to change to something presentable, gathered the papers I needed, and hurried out the door. When I got outside, the man with the table was standing there by a tree and staring at me. I ran to the meeting where Chris was standing and waiting on me with the biggest smile on his lips. When we went in, everyone stared at me with a mean look in their eyes. I sat down, but I didn't really hear because I was only waiting for them to tell who has been promoted. I was sitting and thinking on my husband and my baby when I suddenly heard my name and everyone started clapping. Chris got up and started clapping louder than anyone else. "Samantha, congratulations like a many thousand times." Chris came running over to me and gave me a big hug. "Thank you," I mumbled. Why am I such a bitch? I just got promoted. I just got like a head director or something of something. I don't know what I work with. I haven't even specified that. But why am I such a bitch? I hurried outside so I could call Thomas. He was really happy. But when I was about to say something more, my phone died. I put it in my pocket and started to go back to the hotel. I felt like there was someone after me, but I couldn't see anyone in the dark. I started going faster and in the end I ran. Suddenly there was something that jumped me. I got an intense pain in my neck and then I passed out. When I woke up again, I was in a big bed with red bed sheets. Kinky. I grabbed my neck and felt 2 holes. My throat felt dry, like I hadn't had anything to drink in a very long time. I started getting up, but I didn't know where I was, so I tried to go through a big black door. The walls were dark and there were hanging old creepy pictures. On the black floor there was a big red carpet in the middle. There weren't any furnitures. Only more doors. Over in the corner there were about 10 people, all with a black cape. In the middle, the weird man from the table was standing and smiled. "Welcome," he yelled, while they took their hoods off. "Where am I?" I whispered to myself. The other couldn't possibly have heard it. "You are in my beautiful home. I'm David, and these are Jenny, Ronald, Jessica, Jennifer, Michael, John, Julia, Henrietta, and Kim. We're all vampires." Oh great! Why with the names? Why did I feel the need to write all those names? "We are all vampires, and so are you, my dear Samantha." I didn't know if I should laugh about the fact that he just said that we were all vampires, or cry because I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I chose to laugh so it wouldn't become so awkward. Within a split second, David was standing by my side and held me up in my shirt. He turned me around where there was a mirror on the wall. Was that really me? With the totally red eyes, the beautiful pale skin. My hair, which before was a little curly, was completely smooth, and 2 of my teeth were very pointy. Because apparently people with curly hair aren't beautiful. I don't know. I had curly hair, I still have a little bit of curls. So I guess that was my beauty ideal, was completely straight hair, naturally. "Come on," David said. "You haven't had anything to drink and the sun has gone down." They took me outside and then they ran from me. I started to run after them and I was running extremely fast. Suddenly they stopped and was totally quiet. I looked around a little bit and saw 7 very drunk men. The other vampires ran after them and bit them in the neck. There was one of them who almost ran away, but I ran after him and bit him in the neck. I kept sucking until he didn't have any more blood left in his body. So that didn't take long before she just accepted being a vampire and started killing people. I dragged him across the ground to the others, who set fire to the bodies. The other vampires thought that I was really good at hunting. When we were out hunting one night, we met other vampires. Wait, one night, so it was like, there's been a few nights. She's been with them for a while now, and she just totally don't care about anything else. She don't think about her job or her husband or her child. Alright, that's cool. This is our place. If you don't want to give us this place to hunt, you have to die, the leader of the group said. There were only 5 and we were 11. Jenny and Julia, some of the random vampires in this story, jumped the leader, but he was way too strong. He had a UV lamp and shined it on them. Alright, so I was very much into all kind of vampires back then. I watched a lot of different vampire movies. So apparently I got a little bit of Blade in here. Do you guys remember Blade? This cool dude. Amazing movies. Like, oh man, I want to watch them again. They're so cheesy and they're so 90s. It's hilarious. Alright, so this is not just a Twilight fanfic. There's apparently also some Blade in there. Kim and Michael, some other random vampires in my group, I guess, tried to turn the lamp against himself, but they couldn't. While Ronald, Jessica, Jennifer, Henrietta and John fought the other four, David and I took the leader. We managed to turn the lamp against himself. When the other vampires saw him burning up, they ran away. The thing I hated the most was the coffin. It was so small, enclosed and dark, but we couldn't avoid it. If we slept outside the coffin, the sun would shine on us, and then we would burn. Or, you know, you could just close the curtains. Just an idea, you know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. So yeah, apparently she just totally is cool with this lifestyle, except for the coffin, but she's like, alright, I guess this is my life now. I was sitting up on the balcony when David came up to me. You've been weaker, and you've become worse at hunting. It's almost like you're thinking about something else. Anyway, it's almost like you're thinking about something else. Well, I have a son and a husband that I haven't seen in over a month now. Just casually throwing that in there now. Now that she's been with these vampires for, well, about a month. She spent an entire month with these without mentioning that, oh, I have a son and a baby I would like to get home to, please. Can I please see them? I'm sure it would help. No, they would be able to tell that you're different. The next day, Ronald came up, who was huge, and he took me into a big cage. He locked the door so I wouldn't be able to get out. Well, David said while he stepped in the room where the cage was. I know you're thinking about just breaking the cage, but as you can see, there's a thick line around the cage with sunlight, so that if you tried to get out, you would burn. That's pretty clever. That's some Blade shit right there. He gave me an evil smile and went out the room with Ronald, and then they locked the door. If I hadn't told them about my family, I would have never gotten in here. I sat for days without blood. The only thing there was in the cage was an old mattress. The door went up. Ronald came in with a weird suit on. It was probably so he wouldn't get burned in the sunlight. He came over and held my hands behind my back while he stood outside the cage. David also entered. He stood in the doorway so he wouldn't get hit by the sunlight. If you think it would help to see a family, then you must see them. He went out and took a stick. I started screaming as loud as I could. On the top of the stick was Nick's head. Oh my god. We would have given him to you, but Ronald really liked children's blood. It's so sweet. But instead, we have something else for you. John and Henrietta came in with Thomas and threw him into the cage. I could feel that the air was thick. The smell of blood became stronger, and I almost couldn't stand it. I could see on Thomas's face that he didn't recognize me that well. Let her go, David whispered to Ronald. He let me go, and in a split second I was by Thomas's side. I put my teeth in his neck and started to feed. His blood tasted better than anyone else's blood. When I got up, I felt very powerful. I destroyed the bars in the cage so I could get through. I walked over to Thomas and grabbed his jacket so I could hold it over my head so I wouldn't get burned by the sunlight. Alright, but were you naked? Couldn't you just have taken off your clothes and hold it over your head? I went out and threw myself over David. I bit his neck and drank all his blood. The other vampires started running, but I got them all. After having drinking all their blood, I went out for more. I found many vampires that night, and ever since I got my revenge by drinking other vampires' blood. The end. So that was a wild ride. So there's a not so Twilight thing about this story, and that is the brutal stick with a baby's head on it. That freaked me out reading that. Like, did I seriously write that? Wow. So this has a very sad ending apparently. Because besides being a Twilight fan, I was also kind of emo. So, you know, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, there's definitely a lot of things about it that's like, what? That doesn't make sense. Why and why and why? But overall, I had, yeah, it's not good, I'm not saying that, but I thought it would be a lot worse. I'm pretty good at writing, like I've always been good with words. So I think that also kind of sells it a little bit. I know the translating it is a little bit weird, but reading it in Danish in the original language, it's quite nice. It does feel like a professionally, well, not super professionally written. I'm not saying that I write like an actual author, but you know what I mean. Like, there's some people and some fanfics where it's like, and then they walked down the street, and then they kissed, and then they held hand, and then they were happy forever and ever. You know, that kind of thing. This was actually written quite well, I think. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Should I turn this into a movie? I like the whole, like, I was just expecting some Twilight romance because I cannot remember writing this almost. I can remember a little bit like now and then, but I definitely didn't remember all of it. So when all of a sudden I was expecting like this beautiful love story with vampires, probably a little bit sad, which it also was, and then all of a sudden one of the vampires have like a UV light gun of some sort. It's like, yeah, Blade right there. I should watch Blade again. I guess that was a video. Press the like button if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well, and thank you for watching.